This episode of Profiles in Risk is sponsored by the InsurTech Hartford Symposium 2024. Insurance Nerds has been involved with InsurTech Hartford almost since the beginning, and it has always been a fantastic event. This year, the InsurTech Hartford Symposium is on April 17th and 18th at the Mohegan Sun Casino, an absolutely amazing venue. The symposium is more than a conference, it's an experience. With more than just panels, we also have workshops and roundtables. This year, the keynotes are by C-suite executives from Nationwide and Travelers. There is simply no better place to meet top insurtech influencers and others making waves in insurance, who are getting recognized during the second annual Making Waves Award. This year, I am super excited to be one of the honorees. Come join us for one of the best insurtech events of the year and use our promo code SAVE250-NERDS to save $250 off of your admission. Learn more at insurtechhartfordsymposium.com and don't forget to use our promo code SAVE250-NERDS to save $250 off of your admission. Now, on to the show. Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your host, Tony Cañas, and today I have with me Raghav. I said that wrong. I know I said that wrong.
Raghav
Tanna, founder and CEO of Tarmika, which was acquired a year and a half ago by Applied, and now running commercial lines for Applied. So super exciting day today because not only is Tarmika very well known, but Applied is gigantically well known and such an important player on the agency space. And this is Raghav's first, I think I got it this time, first podcast appearance since the acquisition. So I feel like I have the scoop. First time in a long time that I have the scoop. Very exciting. So first of all, Raghav, thank you for joining me today. How's it going?
It's going great. I appreciate you having me on. I'm excited to talk a little bit about what we've been up to for the last year and a half.
Perfect. My pleasure. And as a matter of full disclosure, I attended AppliedNet last year. For the listeners, I attended AppliedNet last year, invited by the Applied people. I was actually very impressed by the conference. And I'm attending again this year in Nashville, and this time I'm actually on a panel. So and the reason I say all that is I want to make it very clear that I am getting more and more involved with Applied, but I do my best to not be an Applied shill. Right, I'm doing my best to continue to be a good journalist, if that is what I am. I have no idea. I've been running this thing for so long, and so anyway, to continue being a good podcaster in our space, not a shill for anybody. Okay, so we always give the guest the chance to give the elevator pitch for their company. What is Tarmika?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I feel like I haven't had to do the elevator pitch in a long time since the acquisition, but I still know it pretty well. Tarmika is a small commercial rating platform. It is essentially designed to be an agency-facing tool to get you multiple quotes from multiple carriers in a single instance. And we built that over the course of 5 years prior to the acquisition. I think the big component to Tarmika is time savings. CSRs spend a lot of their time on renewals, on new business, going into carrier portals, entering the same information into every single system. And our goal was to remove that need. And I think over 5 years, we've done a pretty good job at that.
So I agree. Never been an agent, never quoted once in my life. I've never quoted any business, commercialized, personalized, or anything else. But what I hear out in my travels, in my recruiting, and in my podcast episodes, in private conversations with agents, is good things about Tarmika, right? And if I'm not mistaken, were you guys the first commercial lines rating comparative rater?
No, there was
Okay.
several that came before us.
Okay.
So I mean, this commercial lines rating has been something that people have tried for the last 20 plus years.
Holy wow.
I'll tell you this though, there was other ones before we got started. There was other ones I had known about before we got started. And there was one component I thought was missing from everyone that's tried this, and it's they didn't have the agency experience. They didn't have the agency knowledge. And I think because I worked at an agency, I grew up with my dad owning an agency, right? I had the experience to understand, hey, there's probably a better way to build some of these things that are actually agency tools and not just tech tools, right? I wanted to build it for the CSRs, for the producers. And we had a great team to be able to do that. But that was really the main difference. But we were definitely not the first one to try it.
Okay, so a better, you were looking for a better way to build it to be a true agency tool, not a tech tool. What's the difference?
Yeah, I think so. A lot of, I mean, this is in every industry, right? I've built software for a bit now, and most people that are building software are not building it to solve a need. They're building software for the sake of building something and saying, okay, I now have this technology tool and you can go and use it, right? We saw a problem. We saw a way to fix that problem. But the only way to fix that problem was to actually talk to the agencies and say, what is the best way for us to build this software? We're going to build it for your needs. We're going to cater to you. Because if we didn't do that, we were just another commercial lines rating platform out there. And I'm there are a lot of them now. There's a lot out there. Luckily, we were required before the blow up happened, and there was 30 of them. But I think that's the biggest difference from in all software tools is most people aren't solving a need; they're just building something to build it.
So what you're talking about, I tend to refer to it as InsurTech 1.0. So InsurTech 1.0, 2013 to, I don't know, 2018, something like that. We saw a whole bunch of what I like to refer to as tech hammers looking for an insurance nail, right? VCs and founders who had an exit from fintech or from another side of tech looking for an insurance problem to solve, but without any understanding of the industry. Uh, Nowadays, I don't know if this is 2.0, 3.0, or what, but nowadays we are seeing a ton more insurtechs being born out of true necessity, out of true, like, somebody who really understood the insurance, right? Family agency, who saw a problem and then partnered with the red tech people to fix that problem that actually existed in a way that actually made sense for the business user that really needed the help. So it's not no surprise that Tarmika succeeded, given that you came from the agency. Uh, I'm always curious on the origin story. Okay, so you okay, so according to LinkedIn, you get your bachelor's degree in finance from Bentley University, and uh, don't go right into the agency, right? You go and become an account executive for Travelers, which, uh, if I'm not mistaken, it's an underwriter role, basically. Travelers is the only one that uses weird terminology for their underwriters. So number one, why didn't you go? Because I see two things: kids of agency owners graduate college, and either they go and work for the agency to eventually take over, or they're like, no insurance for me at all. I want to go do something else. So I'm curious, like, you graduate college and what happened?
Yeah, I actually never, I mean, I never really had plans uh to not start a company. I always in my mind was like, I'm going to found
Okay.
something. I'm going to build
Hmm.
something. But I did want to work in the agency. And honestly, I loved working in the agency. I went to Travelers first to understand how carrier markets work, to learn a little bit
Perfect.
more about
Hmm.
commercial lines business. And that was mainly what my dad's agency focused on. I came up with the idea when I was at Travelers to build this tool. And there were a whole bunch of ways this could have went. I could have just started it at 23, 24, or I could have spent a year learning how agencies operate. And
Perfect.
I think I was lucky to have my dad and tell me, "Hey, you don't know anything," which is what every son wants to hear, right? But he
Hmm.
was right. I
Absolutely.
didn't know enough to start the business, and there were other industries that I could have pursued starting a business in that I also didn't understand. But if you don't spend a year or so or 6 months, whatever that time frame is, actually learning about something before you jump in, I don't think you're going to be successful. So I spent a lot of time learning. I spent a lot of time trying to better understand how CSRs operated, how producers operated, what an agency was facing, what the agency needs were, while building Tarmika out. And then once I learned enough, we released for beta in 2018, 2019, really. But I think that was the big thing. I didn't go right into it because I knew what I wanted to do, but I just didn't know how I was going to get there yet.
Okay, perfect. So Tarmika, uh, for the rare agent that has not had not heard about it before, okay. Um, what is the implementation like? Okay, so I'm an agent. I've tried a few commercial lines quoting platforms, didn't like any of them, but I heard so many good things about Tarmika. Uh, I do a demo, I like it, and then how do you? I mean, I'm sure you plug into Applied like out of the box, basically, especially now that that you're part of Applied. Uh, but yeah, what is the implementation like? Is if I use Epic, or what if I use AMS or Hawksoft or anything else?
Yes, the implementation's easy. Implementation of Tarmac is relatively easy to stand up. You have your producer codes, you have your agency codes. We plug it into your profile section. I mean, all in, you're talking about a 2 week setup process to get up and
Perfect.
running, and that includes like code verification with the
Mhm.
carriers, making sure that you're ready to be stood up and start quoting. There is an integration with Epic already. It's great. There's an integration with Easy Links as well. We're actually building all of the functionality of Tarmika into Epic, so you can remarket risks without entering in any additional information. So if you already have data in Epic, you click a button, it requotes the whole thing. So we're
Perfect.
doing all these cool things now, but implementation doesn't change. Implementation will always be pretty short. We used to say it takes 48 hours to implement, but once you add in like carrier code verification, making sure that you can actually use the system, we say 2 weeks just to buy ourselves some time. But in reality, I mean, it's a pretty quick setup process.
Okay. What is the pricing like?
Pricing changed. So this is a great question for someone that's not me. I do product management at Applied in the commercial
Perfect.
line space.
Okay.
It is the funny thing is after you're so used to knowing everything, you know all the answers for the product that you built, the day you get acquired, you forget everything and things change pretty fast. But
Okay. No,
it's
no worries.
I have no idea.
Okay. I'm always curious on what type of agencies are the right fit for using Tarmika. So obviously commercial lines focused agencies, but uh, do you have to be of a certain size for it to make sense, or literally any agency that those commercial lines like this would probably make sense? Like what's kind of the target market of agents for
It's
Tarmika?
a pretty wide spectrum. So we always used to say that the best agencies write a significant amount of commercial insurance. Is that
Of course.
20% of their book or is that 60% of their book? I don't think that really matters. I think if they write commercial insurance and they write more than, let's say, 5 policies, commercial policies a month, it starts to make sense for them. Maybe a little bit more, maybe 10 commercial policies a month or 10 renewals a month for commercial lines, it starts to make sense for them. We have a insane focus on ensuring that the agency is going to have value in using the tool though. So you have to have more than 3 or 4 appointed carriers for commercial lines. You
Okay.
have to actually write commercial business. If you're 100% personal and you're just dabbling in commercial, probably shouldn't buy it or spend the money on it. We do focus on making sure that we're actually a value add to the agency and not just a
Fantastic.
cost, right?
That makes perfect sense. Looking at the website, I like well, for the listeners, the book demo link is right there. I like that the resources has a quiz to help you figure out if the tool makes sense for you, and a calculator to calculate your ROI. So there's Tarmika, and 2 seconds ago, looking at the website, I learned that there's Tarmika Insured. What is Tarmika Insured?
Yeah. So Tarmika Insured is our user-facing solution. It's the embedded insurance version of Tarmika. So essentially what we did was we said, hey, one of the hardest things in writing new business is customer acquisition and collecting data. How can we create a tool where a user that's trying to get insurance, instead of going direct to consumer to a carrier, can buy insurance through an agency directly online? So we plug in this Tarmika Insured into agency websites, into point of sale systems, into other software products, and essentially allow users to complete their application and get a premium all online but it all ties back to the agency that built the relationship. So the agency is the partner in this. We don't go direct to consumer. We're not an agency. We let the agency do all the real work, but this is an easy way for them to collect the data.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. All right, and did that piece of it already exist before the acquisition?
It did, yeah. So I argue that this was one of our better ideas, trying to get users to enter in their own information on agency websites, and this will help agencies drive traffic to their websites, make their websites a little more modern. Um, we rebranded it once the acquisition happened to Tarmika Insured. It used to be called the Tarmika Tunnel, now it's Tarmika Insured. We rebranded the whole thing, and it's picked up a lot of steam. It's picked up a lot of traction because this is a pain point for agencies.
Fantastic. All right. Um, so one thing I just noticed is on the about page, there is a specific list of carriers. Okay. And that list is 1, 2, 3, 4 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times 8. So my math's bad, but I think that's about 32. So there's about 32 carriers that are on the page. Are those the only carriers that Tarmika can quote, or anything on the
There are
horizon?
more than 32 now. Those
Okay.
are the 32 that are approved to be listed on our website. There's marketing involved with all of this. You got to go through legal with the carriers. There's a
Oh
lot.
my
There's
God.
a lot of.
I'm amazed you've been able to get to 32. Yes.
Yeah, no, there's more than 32 now, and we're always adding to the panel. So we're in the process of adding 14 new product lines right now in the course of
Fantastic.
2024. So there's almost always new carriers coming. The applied sales team does an amazing job uh, outlining the value to carriers of being on a rating platform like Tarmika. And agencies help, right? Agencies using the tool make carriers feel like they need to be on something like this to get access to different types of business, more business. So it's a chicken and egg game, but I think we're past that point now.
Perfect. 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 All right. Um, Normally, what I ask is, what are you excited about the future of the product? But today that's a little bit more of it's kind of a two-parted question. So let's kind of go ahead and split it in two. Let's start with the future of the product. What what are you excited about the future of Tarmika, maybe that hasn't been announced yet or that is coming out in 2024?
Yeah, so hasn't been announced yet, but we are taking Tarmika, all the functionality, I mentioned it earlier. We're actually essentially embedding the workflow into Epic. And the reason we're doing this is we realize that agencies they don't want to leave their management system. They want a single source of truth. They want data to move seamlessly throughout their products without having to rekey any information.
Mm-hmm.
So we're essentially taking Tarmika, building it into Epic, and building that integration with their policies. So if you want to remarket an account, you'll be able to press a button in Epic. All of the data will shoot into a rating platform, Tarmika embedded in Epic, and you'll be able to quote directly from Epic, which is incredible. Never been able to do that before. And that's what I'm most excited about because
Mm-hmm.
although I came from the outside, I realized pretty quickly agencies love their management system. Even if it's terrible sometimes, even if there's components of it they don't like, they love their management system for whatever reason. They have to do everything from within their management system. And if you're outside of it, you're kind of like kicked to the curb. And now that we're finally ingrained in the system, we feel as if agencies will be able to remarket policies more seamlessly. We feel like the usage will keep going up and up. And we feel like generally CSRs will be happier.
Okay. You said a very interesting phrase. Agencies love their agency management system. That doesn't quite reflect what I've seen in the world. Now, your dad runs an agency, right? I've never worked in an agency. My girlfriend, who you've met, helped run a very, very large agency whose name I tried to avoid. But my experience out on the road is that there is no agency management system out there that is loved by the agencies. Uh, in fact, it's hard to find an agency management system that they like. Basically, I hear a lot more complaints about Epic, and to be fair, about AMS 360 and and somewhat about Hawksoft. Hawksoft is newer, so I think it does better. But yeah, I would not say that in my experience that agencies love their AMS. They're but what they are is married to their AMS. It's very hard to switch from one to another, and if the tool that you want doesn't play well with your AMS, that's a painful situation to be in, and the AMS is probably going to win that tug of war or that fist fight because it's easier to find another tool that does something similar than to switch AMS in the current world.
So you're spot on. You're spot on. However, I think what ends up happening is people complain about their AMS system pretty much every day. There will always be complaints about their AMS system. There'll always be complaints about the way it's used. The moment you take them out of their AMS environment, there are way more complaints about how they're not in Epic or in EasyLinks or in whatever else
Yes,
than when they
yes.
were in there. And it may not be love, might not be the right word, but need is. You need
Yes,
an AMS system.
Stockholm syndrome comes to mind, but yes, need. And and one thing that you are correct on is uh and I've seen it before. I worked in insurance. I was at a transportation company, and the system was awful. We're talking like text-based for the most part. New system comes in, lots of complaints about the new system because we know how to do things in the old system, right? So yes, if I'm used to the Epic world, or if I'm used to the MS world, if I'm used to Windows, whatever, uh, the first time that somebody hands me a Mac, if I'm a Mac guy today, but as opposed to many Americans my age, I didn't grow up with Macs because they were not in school in Costa Rica when I was growing up. So I made it halfway through college, and I started as a computer science major. I didn't finish that, but I made it halfway through college, swearing I would never go Mac. Today, other than gaming, I'm very much a Mac guy. But that transition was painful. The product was better. I didn't know how to use it, right? I was very used to being a Windows Power user. So I think it's that kind of thing. Like yeah, if you're used to the Epic environment, of course, I want my Raider to just be there, inside there, working the same way, working together, and never make me rekey anything. In that, we agree completely.
I think that's just it though, right? Behavior change in any industry is impossible. It's hard. Behavior change in insurance, multiply that times 10. It's not
We
something that people
we
are
are
willing
risk
to do.
averse.
Yeah,
As an
people are
industry,
risk
we are
averse.
risk averse. Yes, that's why we work in
So
insurance.
so no matter what, I mean, you could build the greatest management system in the world. That's perfect on every level. And getting someone to switch to it would be impossible, which is why it's such a high barrier to entry. I
That,
will
that, that
say, I mean, I know software. I know products, right? I think it's hard, and maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. Maybe I've been here too long. Maybe that's the problem. I think it's hard to compete with something
Mhm.
that has all of the functionality that Epic has. And they've built
Oh
it
yeah,
up
oh
through
yeah, yeah,
they've
yeah,
built it
yeah.
up through acquisition though, right? So they bought Ivans, they bought Tarmika, they bought Indio, they bought Ask Kodiak, they bought CSR24, I'm pretty sure. They bought things in Canada. Like it might be through acquisition and integrating those systems, but the system is robust. AMSs have to be big. They have to be able to handle a whole bunch of complicated tasks. And that's hard to build. And
Yeah,
if you
but
try to get someone to move away from that, it's almost impossible. So you're right. Love might not be the right word, but because it does everything for them, because
mhm.
it controls their entire day to day workflow, if we're not embedded into Epic, we're at a loss.
I want to take a second on the maybe I've drank the Kool-Aid, and you don't have to answer. But in what I've seen, and being a general business nerd, uh, it it seems that uh, the CEOs of acquired companies come in basically two flavors, and it's very hard to know who's which. One flavor is the stick around for 2 years, and as soon as their contract allows them, go create a new company because they're entrepreneurs, right? Right, like they want to entrepreneur. That's not the verb, but they want to create the next thing, that because that's what they live for, not corporate life. And then there's the other type, which is the drinks the Kool-Aid, and not in a bad way, but ends up really getting embedded, very excited for the new company, and ends up running a significant part of that company. In fact, in my own life, Allied Nationwide. Allied was no startup by any stretch of the imagination, but Allied gets acquired by Nationwide. 20 years later, when I come around, the people running Nationwide are the Allied people. The young leaders at Allied end up running the bigger company. So I think it's kind of bipolar. What I don't see much is entrepreneur the company gets acquired, they stay, but they stay in the background, right? They stay and like not end up doing something interesting inside the other company. That I don't see. So I don't yet know, because we just met today, which of the two types you are, and I won't ask you to answer it. It won't get you in trouble. But yes, it's not drinking the Kool-Aid. You might be the type that grows within that company.
Yeah, I think no matter what, though, people who have built companies and successfully sold them are going to build another company, no matter what.
It's in the
And
blood.
I think I, but I think there can be a little bit of both, right?
Hmm.
Um, that doesn't mean I'm doing that in the next year. I don't plan on it. I have no interest in doing it. I have two young kids. I had enough stress in my life for 5 years, 6 years. That stress is mostly gone, right? So I'm going to enjoy myself for a little bit. I love what I'm doing. I love being the product lead for commercial lines. I actually really enjoy being at Applied. We're going to build stuff at Applied, but I can promise you that at some point in my life, I'm 31. At some point in my life, I'm going to build another company, and I don't think anyone at Applied would expect me to say anything
Perfect.
different. That doesn't
Perfect.
mean I'm
Perfect.
doing it in the next 5 years, even. That could be in
Mm,
20 years, but at some point in my life, you have to get back into that space.
perfect. Okay. So let's talk about the acquisition. And so let's start with that. Okay. So you sell to Applied, to the largest in the space when it comes to agency side systems. There's nothing like Applied. Applied is the 800-pound gorilla. uh from the outside, looks like twice the size, maybe more, than AMS. uh than Vertifor is, I was thinking of the actual company name. Okay. uh so you're one of several acquired insurtechs, right? um what has it been like? How did you end up running commercial lines for Applied? Let's start with kind of that complex question.
Yeah, it's a good question. I so we went through a real acquisition process. We were actually like ready to exit um for a whole bunch of reasons. We'd grown to a certain point. I told myself once we get to this point, I think we're gonna be ready to exit. I honestly wanted to start uh focusing on bigger things, and I felt like Tarmik was a feature company, which it was. We built a feature. We built something that was in the agency workflow, but it wasn't the main component of it.
Hmm.
um I wanted to be part of that main component, right? And so we sold to Applied. I was kind of running Tarmika still from within Applied for a few months. My second son was born. I went on paternity leave, and I got a call from our CFO at the time, and he said, "Hey, um, we want you to take over Indio and start running that as a product as well." And the Indio founders did an amazing job building that company, and they had both exited Applied. They had both left. So there was no product leader at running Indio at the time, and I said, "Sure, sounds great."
I,
And
I
so
I have a contract right here for a while. Might as well run into.
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna be
Yeah,
here. Might as
it
well
makes
do
sense.
more
It makes
stuff.
sense. Uh,
And honestly, the way I looked at it really was we could build something pretty cool connecting the commercial lines experience. So if we combine commercial lines into one holistic approach, not just in the US, but in our other regions as well, we can build something amazing that's going to make an impact in agencies' lives.
mhm.
I would love to be the person that's helping lead that charge.
It,
And I got to inherit
it,
this amazing team. There's amazing people at Indio, some of the best engineers I've ever worked with. So it was really, really exciting to be able to
and
do that.
Indio is smart forms, right? So
Yeah,
smart
mid market.
applications.
Yep, mid market smart applications.
There we
Really
go.
amazing tool.
Applications. Hmm.
Awesome tool. Love being involved with it, but it essentially allows you to connect the commercial lines experience across, Epic, Indio, Tarmika, all the other things. And I jumped at it and said, sure, I'll do it. Um, and that was it. That's how I ended up running it. And I think it's been 5 months since then. It's definitely more work than just running Tarmika, which I knew like the
You,
back of my hand.
you could have gotten away with a soft 2 year semi vacation.
I could have, but like I said, I'm here. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. So if I was going to do that, I think at some point after those, if I was only staying for 2 years, they probably would have looked at me and be like, "What exactly do you do here?" Um, and I don't know if that's what I wanted. So I wanted to
Yeah,
do more.
perfect.
I wanted to
Perfect.
build products. I wanted to do it
Mhm.
in the right way, um, and it gives me the opportunity to show that I actually meant that I wanted to be here. I wasn't
Okay.
going to leave after
Yeah,
2 years. It proves that
perfect.
out, right? Take on the
So
additional responsibility, build bigger things.
so from the bigger perspective of running the commercial line side of Applied, uh, what gets you excited about the future of that of Applied in commercial lines?
I think the thing that gets me the most excited right now is commercial lines has always been so siloed into all these different segments. You have micro and you have small and you have mid, you have complex, you have E&S.
Mhm.
There's no single workflow that handles all of commercial lines. There's no single look at commercial lines. There's no one using data and insights and proper recommendations to help agencies quote and bind and submit commercial lines. And there's no end-to-end cycle of CL. It's just like, hey, submit this business, you do your certificates over here, you bind your policy over here, you renew your policy over here. All that stuff can happen in one place. Um, so what gets me excited is actually finally being able to build a full connected experience of what commercial lines should look like. And that takes away from that whole we're a feature company thing, right? I didn't want to just be the feature guy that built Tarmika. I wanted to build something cooler and bigger. This is that. It shows extreme value to agencies. It shows that we care about agencies, which we do. We're building something that they're actually asking for.
Right. Okay. Um, so you brought up that I was going to bring it up anyway, but you brought up how many insurtechs Applied has bought, and there's a perception in out there in the insurtech and insurance world, that I mean we know insurtechs are going to sell or IPO, right? In fact, like a lot of what I do is recruit traditional insurance people to insurtech, and I'm very careful to tell them, hey, this company is not going to exist 5 years from now. And what I mean by that is like the very mission of an insurtech is to prove that this was a need, to build something that fixes it, and then to exit somehow, right? Either by getting acquired or by IPO. But this company will not exist in its current state 5 years from now. It's something people that I'm recruiting from traditional insurance who are used to staying forever need to understand. Uh, so I think that the ecosystem understands that yeah, they're going to get acquired. There is a perception that if too many of them get acquired by the same player, especially if that player is applied, there's a fear that this big octopus, whoever it might be, applied is the one that gets named the most, but whoever it might be, acquires a bunch of companies that are doing really cool stuff in the space, and then after they get swallowed, the technology kind of like lingers in the beast, but innovation stops. Or like fear number one, innovation stops. Fear number two, eventually innovation is only available if I'm an Epic user. It's right. Right. For example, when you talked about really embedding Tarmika into what directly in Epic, right? Could that eventually mean that eventually we won't support AMS 360 or Hoxoff or whoever else, right? I think those are the fears in the market.
Yeah, I get that. Hey, listen, if you build an insurtech, your goal is to exit, right? Um, no matter what. Most, is it 95% of them don't go anywhere. 95% of them fail. You get 5% that exit or go public. And if you are lucky enough to be in that 5%, once you are acquired, I think what you realize is, hey, you're acquired usually by a business that also has the same thoughts in their mind, right? We're a business. We need to
Mm-hmm.
grow our business. Our business, in the case of Applied, is selling Epic. Epic is the behemoth of all the
Mm-hmm.
applied products. So to say that innovation stops, I think is unrealistic. We're still
Okay.
innovating all the time, even in the
Good.
standalone product. If you look at
Mm-hmm.
Indio standalone still innovating. Um, you look at Ivans. Ivans supports the entire industry. Ivans is incredible, and I think the the misconception is that those products should actually continue to innovate for the industry, right? Applied isn't a nonprofit. I think they should build things to make them more money. They should build better innovation within applied products than they should outside.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying
Agreed.
that
Yeah.
they do, because
Mm-hmm.
we are innovating on the standalone app of Tarmika. We are innovating on the standalone app of Indio. But at the end of the day, you're trying to make agencies' lives better. You're trying to
Mm-hmm.
make agencies' lives easier. And if they're all using your management system, those solutions should exist within the management system. You don't have control over what AMS 360 builds. You don't have control over what Hawksoft does. You have control over what Epic does. And so you should build solutions within Epic and EasyLink that work in that way. Um, which I know is not really an answer to your question. We are innovating, but I actually don't like the misnomer that you shouldn't innovate better within the company that bought you than you do externally. I think you should do more for the company that acquired you than externally.
Good. No, no. We do agree that you should keep innovating after you get acquired. From the customer's perspective, right? There's that fear of like I remember Indio. I think what was the first one that I remember when they got acquired, and then hearing a bunch of agents go like, "Oh, darn it, like we love using Indio, and right, we're not an Epic shop, but we don't want to be an Epic shop." Right, is that going to eventually die? We're going to have to find a different player to offer us that particular side. Uh, and then, you know, like as they've acquired others, that's what I usually hear. Uh, okay, so let's look at Applied itself. Since you are running commercialized for Applied, you right, let's look at Applied itself. Uh, and again, big disclosure on my part, I have never used Applied. I don't know what it looks like. Like I have never used Epic. I don't know what it looks like. Like I have never I am not licensed. I have never been an agent. I just have chatted with a lot of people that use it and a lot of people that compete with it, right? So there is definitely bias in the people that I talk to. Uh, but so do correct me if what I'm saying is factually wrong, because I've never run an agency. Okay. So one of the big complaints I hear about Epic is it doesn't play well with other tools that are not Epic, and they charge me to access my own data to plug tools into it. Are those real? Are those that used to be the way in the past? Are those myths?
I mean, I think for the most part, those aren't real.
Okay.
Um, it plays. We build partnerships based on agency ask, right? Like if an agency asks us to do something, there are times when we'll go and integrate. I think there's a lot of situations in Indio where agencies have asked us if we can send our, send data here, send data there, or do this or do that. Same with Tarmica, and we'll do it. Um, without any issues. And the commercial line side, at least, like that's what I know. I don't think that's true. I think what is probably true is when agencies are trying to uh, build their own sort of tech stack, and we have to play well with tools that weren't built to integrate with a tool like Epic. It's hard. I think there's a lot of there might be this thought that, hey, you have data, you can just send that anywhere. Integrations aren't as easy as that sometimes, right? There's two parties in an integration. It has to work seamlessly. They have to be built the right way. They have to be able to connect, and they have to be able to send data in a way that's secure. That's not always the easiest thing, depending on where you're doing it. So to say it doesn't play well with others, I don't think any system really plays well with others. There's no like open AMS system that can just send data as easily as you want to sometimes. But I do think we try really hard to integrate with the tools that our agencies want.
Perfect, perfect. And
Again, I'm answering this all from a commercial lines
yeah,
perspective,
yeah.
but
No, no, that's your purview. Yeah. So and I've also never built software, right? Like
yeah,
I'm not a former founder. Uh, so so from my perspective, right, it's like APIs should make it super easy to, right, like just build an API and we should be able to transfer data. I'm sure that the reality is much more complex than that. The
yeah. So
where
think about it, right? Think about the way the data is structured, right? So yes, APIs make it easy, but if agencies, so the cool thing about Epic is it can be really custom. So you can create all these forms, custom forms. You can call a business line whatever you want. You can call a bot policy a B. Like it doesn't really matter. You can name things what you want. So when you're translating data and moving data, if you don't know what those items actually relate to, sometimes it's hard. That's every system, by the way. So it's the same thing. Like agencies in that build their Salesforce environments, they call different items different things, and they care about different data points. So even if you have an API, you still have to know what data points they care about. You still have to know how those data points map. You still have to know um, which components of information have to come back into the system. Like these integrations are harder than just saying we have an API, let's go and do it. Um, that's my feeling towards it.
okay, perfect. No, that's perfectly fair. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a really interesting and fun interview. I look forward to see you in Nashville since I will be there. I'm sure you will too.
Yeah,
Uh, the conference is coming up. No, I don't have the dates in front of me. Uh,
September 9th.
Thank you. September, and it's like a 2 or 3 day. It's like 9, 10th, and
Yeah.
11th, right? Okay,
Yep.
September 9th, 10th, and 11th, in Nashville. And for the listeners, if you've never been to Applied Net and you are an Applied shop, or you're considering becoming you're an Epic shop, or you're considering becoming an Epic shop or an EasyLink shop, uh, go to AppliedNet. I sincerely mean that. It is an amazing conference. And from what I've been able to find, the largest agency side conference in the US. So definitely the like and the quality of the conference. Like I was blown. I do so many conferences. I was blown away last year at the quality of the conference itself. So yeah, if for the agents for the listeners, you're an agent, you probably should be at AppliedNet. Again, thank you so much for your time. It's been a really fun one. Uh, Look forward to continue the conversation in a couple of years. To to hear about the awesome things you've done with the commercial lines side of Applied.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tony.